Welcome to the IHRC third annual symposium, Zurich, Switzerland. The theme today is new models of leadership. Let's see what's happening.
Dear members and friends, good afternoon. Dear guests, my name is Carsten Sudhoff, and as the chairman of the International HR Community of Switzerland, I'm extremely delighted to welcome you to our third annual symposium. We'll be videotaping this session, and thanks to the help of Swiss Jobs TV and Mr. Zwiegard and James Maxey, we'll also be doing interviews with some of you volunteers. If for whatever reason you do not want to be interviewed or you don't want to be filmed, just give us a small signal. And we won't. Today's topic is full of complexity because it deals with how human beings actually interact with each other and how they work with each other today and how that might have to change tomorrow. The topic of today is the new models of leadership. So why have we chosen to spend an entire afternoon talking about the new models of leadership? What's so new about it? What role does HR play in this, and what role do we as individuals play in this? We'll try and give answers to these questions over the next couple of hours together with your help. The problem is that leadership is being bombarded with a multitude of challenges today. And they're coming at the leader from all sorts of sides, and they're all coming at the leader simultaneously. Think of globalization, virtualization, the emergence of what we would call super wicked problems like world hunger, climate change, and so on, and the increasing scarcity of resources, and particularly talent, human resources. They're making our world increasingly interdependent and complex. Fluidity is the name of the game, and uncertainty is guaranteed. New technologies are challenging the exclusivity of command and control structures, and they're allowing the creation of organic networks. Swarm cloud intelligence and open source platforms are allowing a shift from control at the center to creativity at the periphery. With demographic shifts and generational gaps that are intensified by hyperconnectivity, the poor leader is being challenged to lead and to motivate in very different ways today. It is no longer possible to believe that an economic problem in one area will remain confined to that one area, or that an economic environmental problem in one area will not have repercussions to other areas. Just think of the seemingly local catastrophe a bit over a year ago in Fukushima, and think of the fact that this reverberated across the world with severe supply chain impact in most every country. On the other hand, we have leadership displaying quite a bit of inertia nowadays. If you think of the financial crisis in Europe, it didn't exactly fall out of the sky and land in front of our feet. The signals of this economic meltdown were visible for many, many years. Yet, leadership decided not to do anything and display collective blind spots. It's not surprising that the public is complaining about the lack of leadership. The key concept here is systemic connectivity, which means that the decisions of a leader in one area are not only dependent on the leader's choices, but also on the choices and the decision of other leaders somewhere probably very far away. And that is what makes it so different, the leadership today from yesterday. Because yesterday, the leader basically had to deal with his or her direct environment, and global topics did not really show up in his or her agenda. Against the backdrop of this quantum change, I think we need to redefine what we define as being leadership today. And I mean this not only from a process or from a skill set point of view. I think I have to talk about a significant mindset shift that will have to be transported by a significantly different behavior. I believe that sustainable success of a leader, and therefore for society, will be subject to the leader's ability to reflect, to be mindful of others, and to be aware that his or her behaviors will have an impact on those around him, whether he wants to or not. Now, recent scientific evidence shows that our thoughts our movements, our speech have an impact on the people around us. Those of you who were in the annual symposium a year ago, when we talked about neuroscience and leadership, will remember that we talked about the discovery of mirror neurons, with which science can today prove how we are connected to the world, but more importantly, how we are connected to one another. And on the basis of quantum mechanical understanding, we today know and can prove that we are all connected in a unified field, and what affects one affects all. In order to be successful in creating and managing your ecosystem as a leader, therefore, the leader will have to be inclusive. The leader will have to be uniting and capable of building bridges. And I think the leader will also have to be able and willing to display behaviors such as own vulnerability. The fact that he or she does not have all the answers to all the problems all the time. And this behavior will need to be based on a very deep inner journey that the leader will have to embark upon, taking the leader far beyond his or her IQ, and will take him far into the emotional and the social intelligence. I'd like to quote from Ben Horowitz. Some of you might know he is the CEO and founder of a company called Opsware, one of the first cloud computing companies created in the 1990s. Fascinating blog, if anybody's interested, Ben Horowitz. So he says, by far the most difficult skill for me to learn as CEO was the ability to manage my own psychology. Organizational design, process design, matrix, hiring, firing were all relatively straightforward skills compared to keeping my mind in check. Over the years, I've spoken to hundreds of CEOs, always with the same story. Yet, hardly anybody talks about it, and I've never read anything about it. It's like the fight club of management. The first club of the fight club of the psychological meltdown of the CEO is, don't talk about the psychological meltdown. As Ben rightly states, the doubts one has as a leader is nothing you hear about. In fact, you shouldn't hear about it, because we want to believe that our leaders are flawless and worthy of being followed. Yet we live in a day and age where social media exposes all the flaws, all the mistakes of a leader in a matter of 140 character post. Public discontent is not just a legal right, it seems to have become a societal expectation. I'm certainly not suggesting that we would like an entire generation of leaders believe that 100% failure is fine, or that having public breakdown after public breakdown is the noble path forward for society. But I think we do need to more widely share the aspects of leadership that include elements such as vulnerability as a sign of strength, inner doubt as a journey for growth, and that success comes with a price that needs speaking. We have planned today's annual symposium to actually help unfold and discover the complexity of this quantum change. We will be hearing from 5 different speakers, all with very different personal vitae and professional backgrounds. But what brings them together is their passion to drive a leadership that is more focused on responsibility and accountability, the ability to build bridges and to collaborate, the curiosity, self-reflection, and awareness, the leader's willingness and the energy to drive social change, and finally, the leader's ability and willingness not just to look at the financial benefit, but also look at the social benefit. The way we would like to do it is you will hear from the speakers. At the end of the presentation, you will have about a few minutes time to ask some questions, after which I would like to ask you to go into one of those 4 corners of the rooms. We will put flip charts in the corners, and just spend 5 minutes in buzz groups thinking, now what was the essence of what I just heard? What are the key takeaways that I do not want to forget? Literally only 5 minutes, and then come back to the plenary, and then we'll hear the next presentation, followed by questions and answers, followed by buzz groups, and so on. Between the second and the third session, we'll have a quick coffee break. And at the end of the last presentation, what we will do, we'll have a plenary discussion around what on earth did we just hear? What does it mean for HR? What role does HR play, or what role should HR play? and what can I do as an individual in this society? And now I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, Nick Udall.
The simple one for me is, how can HR help create time in an organisation? Lots of organisations are time poor, and the way in which organisations and teams meet often create time poor environments. You can't innovate, you can't be creative if you don't create time and you become masters of time. What I do know is there are some really important dilemmas, like HR has to be the champions of culture but can't by default lead culture. So I think, how does HR move beyond just being an expert function? How does it become an insight-based function? How does it catalyse change rather than just manage process? I think there's lots of, I have more questions than I have answers, but I think HR has a really exciting place to play. The size of the prize for the HR function that finds that new place is massive.
Because I believe that the power of connecting the business power and the social entrepreneur scene with the knowledge they have and the resources business has brings the hugest potential for change, for positive change, for driving change of our society. I have the feeling that it was very inspiring for most of the people, quite new for a lot of them. So I guess it fulfilled the message and the purpose of being here. And I got a lot of good contacts, so I was very happy.
Key theme is that the way out of this global crisis, the way for companies to find competitiveness is leadership. I think leadership defines and shapes how an organization needs to respond, and the role of leadership needs to significantly be upgraded. I'd like HR professionals to really look at their HR process or figure out, are they helping or hindering? 3 key questions that they ask themselves. Firstly, what are we trying to accomplish? Secondly, actually, what are we trying to stimulate? And thirdly, what does this prevent us from doing? I think it's been real fun, actually. It's been a really nice conference. I think there's been some real stimulus and dialogue and interaction. And it's a very nice forum to be part of. I will certainly be back if they have me.
It's all about giving young people responsibility and giving their employees the possibility to actually interact with the next generation, because it's the next generation that will be the future leaders, and so it is also important for us to actually invest in young people and to inspire them accordingly. I think it's important for HR people to understand that young people do want to get to receive responsibility, that they do actually, they can create a lot if they do receive it. And I think it's also important for HRs to understand that also for their employees, it's a lot about, why am I working here? What can I do? Where's my impact? And that's why also corporate volunteering is a great opportunity for employees to actually interact with the next generation and to figure out, why am I doing this and what can I do to actually help the next generation.
Is to bring innovation to leadership, to inspire leaders to explore the boundaries and doing the things, experiment the things they have not done before. It's very inspiring.
Well, obviously the world is going through unprecedented times in which everything we do is so much more interconnected and interdependent. Now, if we assume that leadership, the way we define it, the way we experience it today, will not help us solve the problems tomorrow, I see an incredible chance of HR to assuming a very different role, a very different impact generational role, rather than compared to what HR used to do. We have branched into Geneva. We created a Geneva chapter just in October last year, which is growing equally well. It's all about a community, and I would like to excite and invite any senior HR person that is looking for not only a network of peers, but also somebody who wants to give back to HR, give back to the world, to come and join us and to use the platform to actually share and learn.
We had a good example today with the young entrepreneurs of Switzerland, and they were very innovative, energetic, and that's the kind of thing we need to gear more towards.
We can only get to real innovation and the deeper levels of creativity if we really challenge existing paradigms.